This is RF, and you're listening to Country Lunch on WOOL 91.5 FM from Bellows Falls, Vermont. And today we have an interview with Paleo Mountain Man and Harry Hubbard from Illinois Caves.com. Hello.
Hey, this is Harry Hubbard.
Can you tell us where you're from?
I live in Illinois.
Okay, and what do you do?
Well, I do a lot of research with ancient languages, ancient civilizations, things of that nature, and I'm really into the stone walls and the research surrounding that. And back in the 70s, Salvatore Trento wrote some books about it, about the walls, and various aspects concerning them. And I've always been fascinated with ancient stone forts, ancient civilizations. I've documented, a couple of sites that nobody else had documented before on video, and that I'm just fascinated with megalithic sites, and where large buildings that just absolutely boggle the mind.
Where are these located?
Well, one of the biggest ancient structures I documented was in Arizona at Chevis Pass, an ancient ruin called Nankahovenweep. And then there was another megalithic site in central Indiana, Browning Hill. I did a video on it. It was called Most Spectacular Ancient Ruins of North America. And there's this huge squared off blocks. I mean, some of them are 15 feet by 4 feet by 3 feet, and they're all laid out, and they've been there since God only knows when. They are just absolutely huge. And I was surprised to learn that nobody had gone back in and done more research on it.
Gosh, how do blocks so big? How did they do that back then? Now,
I don't know, but they are just completely hand hewn. I mean, just the corners are all 90-degree angles. They're just perfect blocks.
Yeah.
And how they moved them it blows my mind. But when we're looking at the stone walls, okay, think of all of the railway system, all the railroad tracks that we have in this country. We have 155,000 miles plus, a few hundred of railroad track in this country, in North America. I guess the lower 48, what we could say. 155,000 miles of railroad track, but when it comes to the stone walls, there are over 240,000 to 250,000 that we know of miles of stone walls. So basically 100,000 miles more of stone walls than railroad track in this country. Unbelievable.
So, have you seen the LiDAR pictures of it in New England?
No, I've seen just layouts from books, layouts from old information that I've had, plus my own hands-on visuals. And, I'm under the impression that, when logistically speaking, to build these walls, they go straight, like in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to clear the land first and get all the trees and vines and underbrush. You'd have to remove that first before you started building the walls and piling all these stones up that just go for miles and miles. And then we have to take into consideration the logistics of pulling the stones out of the ground, because it's not like you have a pile of stones here and you say, oh, I'm going to build a wall, and then you just take the stones off of a pile and line them up. The stones had to be pulled out of the earth first. They're not like just laying out. And so to do that, you'd have to have tools. The people that did this had to have shoes. They had to have clothes, gloves of some description. It's not an easy thing to build these walls, plus the fact that you couldn't do it when it's freezing cold, because the ground would be frozen. It'd be like concrete. And plus you'd have to have problems in the heat of the summer. And one thing that bothers me really bad is that a lot of the walls are not near any type of water source. Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. So what did these people eat? What did they drink? How did they move the stones logistically? How did they carry them from one spot to another? And you know, a lot of people have told me, they say, well, you know, they built these walls for no reason whatsoever. They don't serve any purpose. They do have a purpose. There was a reason. We just can't figure it out.
I got a question. Would it be possible for them back there, way back there, to actually create these stones themselves out of the minerals that are there? Do you think they could do that?
I don't think so, because a lot of the stones that I have seen seem to be water worn. They're rounded, and some of them are squared off. I don't think it would just be so much of a logistic nightmare to hand hew each and every one of them, or even manufacture them.
Well, I was thinking, you know, like they created them out of dirt. You know what I mean, like a polymer.
Not the walls that I have seen.
I've watched some documentaries on ancient temples and stuff. They didn't carve the rocks; they created the rocks with all the patterns and things, like pouring cement. But it was made out of more natural material than cement.
Like a type of natural concrete or so.
Right, but natural stone back then. Is that a possibility?
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so.
You still have to crush up all the stone to make all that.
Yeah, it would just be a logistics nightmare. Then you'd have to mix it. You'd have to heat it up. You'd have to heat water up, and your limestone up, or whatever you're using.
It would be harder to crush up a giant boulder than to just shape it. It would be.
That's true. Now, the stones that I saw in walls in Connecticut and in other places, it's a very dense and hard, heavy stone. It's not like a regular rock. The stone itself is a much harder material. And another thing is, where's the cemeteries for these people? Where are their bones? Where did they bury each other? And some of these walls, if someone has them in their yard or on some of their property, documenting the closest year-round water source would be very interesting, because some of them a lot of them are up on hills and high mountains and such, that unless there's a natural spring there, what are these people going to drink?
I'll tell you, Harry.
How did they bury each other?
Harry, those are good questions. On my wall, it comes right out. It starts at a well in a spring, a natural spring source, and it's about 950 feet above the Black River, which is about 400 or 500 feet above sea level. And the water comes out of the ground, and that's where they started the wall. But they had to prepare the ground. They had to take everything out of the way and right down to the ledge in a straight north-south line, perfectly straight, all the way up the ledge for several hundred feet from the well, north-south, all the way up to the highest point of the ledge, clear it off, and then build the wall. And every stone was placed in the perfect spot in the wall. There was no other place for that stone to be except where it is. And that's how they built them. That's why they're still standing, because they put that much attention to it.
So now we're talking engineering skills, surveying skills.
Geometry.
How did ancient man do that? Well, I guess you could tie a bunch of vines together and then stretch them out, like in some type of ancient roping, a rope, and then pull it, and then have a straight. Because it's hard for me to even make a straight line planting seeds in a garden.
And these walls are several hundred feet long. Plus, back then when they were built in ancient times, they had to know how to line it up north-south. And you need to know the stars. And they were built to watch the stars. That's what their purpose was. They were geometric. They told stories about the heavens and the stars and the people that built them. And I think they buried their people near these places in small, low mounds, shallow mounds. And they were on the east sides of these walls. And there were certain people that built these straight astronomical walls, and there's a lot of other walls in the woods that are they're just in the woods everywhere. You
Yeah.
can't, you don't know why it would be there. They go up and they snake up and down and in and around, and they just keep going, almost like they were placed there for a purpose we can't understand, and that's what we're looking at. It's a mystery, and there's
I've
so
seen
many
walls
of
that
them.
were 15 feet high, 10 feet, 8 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet, and even
Giant
like
boulders.
1 foot. I saw a wall that was like 1 foot high that stretched for like half a mile.
Yeah, I've seen them stretch for over a mile, straight as an arrow, 4 feet
Yeah.
high and 3 feet wide, and every boulder placed to connect with the other boulder. Like they put the weight of one boulder on the other boulder, on the other boulder, on the other boulder, so they all held each other together in
They're
weight.
fitted. They were fitted together.
Plus, if you put a section of this wall and you draw lines through the stacks, you'll see that they're geometric. There's geometric lines running through these. They're not vertical and horizontal lines. They're geometrically shaped, and there's spirals in the walls. Perfect spirals. These people
Yeah.
knew geometry. They knew sacred geometry. They knew how to build. They weren't out there. I don't think with vines. I think they were wearing woven clothes, and they were wearing headdresses, and they were people that we can't even imagine. And they left their
Correct.
images on the stones that they carved. They didn't just build walls. They carved stone and sculptures, and they carved their faces, and they were artists, and they had great eyes, I think.
And that causes another question, is what did they wear? What kind of clothing? They had to have had woven clothes, which is another mystery, is how come all over the world, all over this globe, it appears to me that at the same time, everyone had the weaving loom. How did they get that? How did people in South America, Central America, North America, Europe, Africa, Asia, how did everybody all of a sudden have the ability to do single and double and triple bobbin weft looms? Who showed them how to do that?
In the mounds, they dug up woven cloth with colored woven cloth. Some of it survived, and there's actual examples of it you can see. And it's woven cloth. They weren't wearing skins. They were wearing woven cloth, and they were wearing headdresses, and they were wearing jewelry that they made, and they were wearing all kinds of metallurgy they had. They were doing things that we can't imagine because we don't think about them that way. They're so far away from us, removed in time, and the only remnants of them we see are the walls, and we say, wow, look at that. Who could have moved that? Why would they move that? And I think we get stuck on the question why. If we think like they do, we have to think like they do, or we're not going to answer the question, why did they build a dome in the middle of the woods?
My question isn't so much why, it's how.
How did they move a giant stone back then?
Down in Chatsworth County, Georgia, they call it Fort Mountain. There's a high mountain there, and there's a fort on top of it.
Right.
And there is a huge rock wall that goes around the top of the mountain. And it's about maybe 10 feet wide, and it does have openings. It has a couple of openings to it. But it's very rough. But about every 25 feet, there's like a hole, a dip in the center of this rock pathway, wall, whatever. And the mountain where the top of the mountain where this wall is made is very sloped. The natural slope is quite of an incline, a staggering degree. So I figured that they used that stone wall to pull carts or walk or to get from their neighbor's house home or whatever. But every 25 feet or so, there's a hole right in the center of it. What was the purpose of that?
To find out more, visit Harry Hubbard at illinoiscaves.com or Facebook, Illinois Caves. Also, to find out more about Paleo Mountain Man's research, you can visit YouTube and search for Paleo Mountain Man.